because it is in a free, democratic, and stable Iraq that not just the violence, but the wretched and backward philosophy of these terrorists will be defeated and destroyed. Yesterday, as some of you will have heard, the President of the United States delivered a powerful, telling speech extolling the virtues of freedom, justice, democracy, and the rule of law, not just for some people, but for all the peoples of our world. Today, we of course discussed the issues to do with weapons of mass destruction and the threat that it poses.
Minister, it's my honor to be standing by the side of a friend. And Laura and I were so honored to be invited by Her Majesty the Queen to come to the United Kingdom for this. Our shared work of democracy in Afghanistan and Iraq is essential to the defeat of global terrorism. The spread of freedom and the hope it brings is the surest way in the long term to combat despair and anger and resentment that feeds terror. The advance of freedom and hope in the greater Middle East will better the lives of millions of that region and increase the security of our own people. I've just come from a meeting with families of British servicemen who were killed in Iraq. These brave men died for the security of this country and in the cause of human freedom. Our nations honor their sacrifice. I pray for the comfort of the families. Our mission in Iraq is noble and it is necessary. No act of thugs or killers will change our resolve or alter their fate. A free Iraq will be free of them. We will finish the job we have begun. Together, Great Britain and the United States met the defining challenges of the last century. Together, we're meeting new challenges that have come to our generation. In all that lies ahead, in the defense of freedom, in the advance of democracy, our two nations will continue to stand together. I'm honored to be here, Mr. Prime Minister. What is ever necessary to secure Iraq?
And let me make it absolutely clear for our position as well. We stay until the job gets done. And what this latest terrorist outrage shows us is that this is a war. Its main battleground is Iraq. We have got to make sure we defeat these terrorists, the former Saddam people in Iraq, and we must do that because that is an essential part of defeating this fanaticism and extremism that is killing innocent people all over our world today. And I can assure you of one thing, that when something like this happens today, our response is not to flinch or give way or concede 1 inch. We stand absolutely firm until this job is done.
If I may have a follow-up to, it's kind of a new thing, a follow-up to the answer. The one thing is happening that you need to know that will help us make the necessary calculations for troop levels is that there's a lot of Iraqis beginning to be trained to deal with the issue on the ground. There's Iraqis being trained for an army, there's Iraqis being trained for a intelligence service, there's Iraqis being trained for additional police work, there are Iraqis being trained for asset protection, there are Iraqis being trained for border guards. There's over 130,000 Iraqis now who have been trained who are working for their own security. So, and part of the answer to your question is how fast the new brigades of Iraqi army are stood up, how effective they are. We believe that the Iraqi citizens want to be free. We know that they're willing to work for their own freedom, and the more people working for their own freedom, the more we can put that into our calculations as to troop levels. Thank you for letting me butt in there again. Tom. Well, first of all, there's, in Iraq, we're working on 2 tracks. We're working on a political track, and we believe that the timetable that the Governing Council has set for itself is an accurate timetable, and we'll work with the Governing Council to turn over sovereignty. It's their decision And we agreed with their decision based upon the conditions on the ground. And some of those conditions were the fact that there wasn't the sectarian violence that was predicted. Iraq remained intact. There wasn't the mass refugee flows that had been predicted. There wasn't starvation that had been predicted. In other words, the conditions on the ground were such that the Governing Council felt like they could move forward in a constructive way, and we supported that. Secondly, these terrorist attacks are attacks on freedom. And, they attack when they can. And our job is to secure our homelands and chase down these killers and bring them to justice. And we're making good progress with Al-Qaeda. And if you were to view Al-Qaeda's organization structure as with kind of a board of directors, and then there would be the operating management, we're dismantling the operating management. One person at a time. We're on an international manhunt. That's why relations and cooperation between our intelligence services are essential to secure the people of our respective countries. And I will tell you, the Prime Minister's cooperation has just been unbelievably good, as has the intelligence service of Great Britain. A fine group of people, by the way.
Let me just deal with a very specific issue of the British nationals over in Guantanamo Bay. We are in discussion about this. I've already said in the House of Commons it will be resolved in one of two ways. Either they will be tried by the military commission out there, or alternatively they'll be brought back here. Now, we're in discussion at the moment. Well, it will be resolved at some point or other. It's not going to be resolved today, but it will be resolved at some point soon. Let me just say this to you, however, about Guantanamo Bay, indeed, the people that are there. Again, let's just remember, this arose out of the battle in Afghanistan, that arose out of September the 11th and the attack there. And the very fact that we are in discussion about making sure there are fair procedures for trial, or alternatively, it's up to us, as the President very fairly has said, these people come back here, is an indication that we actually treat people differently. So even though this arose out of this appalling, brutal attack on America on September the 11th, nonetheless, we make sure that justice is done for people.
Yes, justice is being done. These are illegal non-combatants picked up off of a battlefield, and they're being treated in humane fashion, and we are sorting through them on a case-by-case basis. There is a court procedure in place that will allow them to be tried in fair fashion. As to the issue of the British citizens, we're working with the British government. Freedom is beautiful. It's a fantastic thing to come to a country where people are able to express their views. Freedom is a wonderful thing, and I respect that. And liberty, hope they care deeply about the fact that when we find suffering and torture and mass graves, we weep for the citizens that are being brutalized by tyrants. And finally, the Prime Minister and I have a solemn duty to protect our people. And that's exactly what I intend to do as the President of the United States.
For all the reasons I've given you earlier, this is what this struggle is about. And, you know, when you look, as you can see from the list of